Hello and welcome to another segment of Mind Your Business. This segment is presented to you gladly by IBC Bank. I am your host for today's show, Gabriel Castillo, Corporate Marketing Vice President. And today we're talking very closely with friends about business and about women in business. I'm very pleased to welcome two friends of mine, and one of them is my colleague, of course, Dalia Martinez, Executive Vice President at IBC Bank, in charge of operations and so much more. And no stranger to the KGNS studio, Sandra Alaniz, local realtor with REMAX Realty, currently chairwoman for the Laredo Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having us.
No, thank you, because I want to talk everything business here, of course, and a woman's perspective. And I thought, what better people to have here today than the two of you? I know you've been here with us before because we're representing the chamber, but now, Dalia, we welcome you here as well because, as you know, we work together, and I've seen your leadership skills, and I want you to share that with our viewers. I want to hear what our viewers would like to also know about women in the future and what they can do. So tell us a little bit about your story first.
So I've been with IBC for 35 years. I just celebrated my 35th anniversary here. I was originally in Corpus, and I was recruited to come work for IBC when we were a very, very small bank. So I've been with IBC through its entire growth journey.
That's right. And so now, what inspired you to get into the banking industry in particular?
Well, I don't really know that it was an inspiration as much as it was an accident. So I was taking a year off from school, and I decided to work, and I walked into a bank because I thought it was really cool to work in a bank, and I tried to get a job as a teller, but they refused to hire me because I looked like a little girl. But I begged and begged and begged, so they finally hired me and put me in the back. So I started working in bookkeeping, and it was a great experience because I got to learn banking from the ground up, and I never went back to school. I've just been learning every day in the banking field.
It really has been a journey for you,
it sure
35
has.
Years. And then for you, Sandra, I know I've met you when you were doing something totally different with your dad, and you had your own business, and I recalled specifically how I admired when I walked into your office, your door had your goals plastered on that wall. That was already telling story for me that this woman is really a go-getter. Tell us what's inspired you now to be in the realty world and do what you're doing.
Well, it's a great story, actually. I had, as you know, been in the family business for so many years, and I was wanting a career change. So, I ended up moving back to Laredo. And my dear friend right here is instrumental in getting me to think about changing my careers into real estate. I had been buying and selling homes for probably about 15 years. And so that is something that I actually enjoyed. So when I started making a career change, Dalia said, Sandy, you should do real estate. And honestly, kind of an accident, but that's the way it happened too.
So looking back, Dalia, what would you tell 20-year-old Dalia right now that she should have done differently or maybe done the same? I don't know. What would you tell 20-year-old Dalia?
I get asked that question a lot. And I can honestly tell you that I used to say that I should stay in school and graduate, get a college degree, and, get as much education as I could. That's what I used to say. But now that I've lived this journey, and I've learned everything that I've learned by just being at the bank and having great opportunities and great mentors, I just don't know that I would change anything. I think this was just the life that I was meant to lead, and I never thought about being a banker, but I love being a banker, and I wouldn't think of doing anything else.
It's obvious that you do love your job because we work together, and you live it every day, but at a higher level than I could ever imagine myself. But you do it. You're an inspiration and motivation to all of us. And the other thing that I admire really among all of you is that you're one of 5 women in a corporate executive level. Tell us what that feels like to be among your peers like that.
It's very interesting to me because I've had a lot of opportunities to travel across the United States talking about banking issues. And I can tell you that even though I've been in banking for 35 years, when I walk into a room, it's usually 90% men, even today. So you can imagine when I was younger, that was very intimidating to me. Now I'm just used to it. I expect that. It's sad, but I expect that. But it is something that you have to get used to, because as a woman, you tend to be nice and caring and loving, and you talk about your feelings, right? And in a man's world, you can't really act that way, or you won't be taken seriously. So it's a balance to not lose your personality and the core of who you are, but still be able to sit in that room and try to be a dynamic leader. And
command the room at the same time. I know you do both do that very well. And Sandra, I know that your leadership role right now at the chamber, and you're as a business owner, I know that you're in partnership with your husband, Hector, but you do lead in your own way. Tell us about that leadership quality and how you basically developed through the years.
I think it comes naturally, to be quite honest with you. I think you're either born with those leadership qualities or you're not. And if you're not, there's ways that you can develop them. I know that to be true, because I know that the bank does have leadership, training for all their staff, right? So to be a natural born leader makes it easier, right? And ever since I was a kid, I was very involved in activities. I mean, you don't want to look back, but honestly, I was student council president. I was involved in almost everything. And lately, since I've been talking to some of my former classmates, a lot of them have told me, I remember you in school, even back then, you took leadership positions. So it's just something that I have always enjoyed doing, helping others. So
overall, now speaking of leadership and communication, Dalia, I know that we've talked about this and we see this happening, and we see all kinds of business leaders talk about this. How post-COVID, we kind of shut down and our kids stopped talking to each other. And I know several CEOs have mentioned that, how we need to get back to communication one-on-one and in person. What would you advise right now to that person that's watching, that's 19, 20 years old and already starting their career? What do you think is important in their life to start developing now or focusing on now?
I think that one of the most important skills that you can have as a business person, as an employee, is good communication skills. And I don't mean writing, because nowadays everybody has Copilot, so you can just ask Copilot to write something for you, right? But I mean just communicating with people. And it is a skill that a lot of people don't have anymore. They just don't take the time to learn how to communicate. And communication isn't just about trying to get your message across. It's about also trying to make sure that the person understands what your message is and the importance of what you're trying to convey. And I think that that is such an important skill that's missing today. And if you think about it, you need it for everything. You don't just need it for business. You need it in your personal life, in your relationships, and in everything.
And that's very true. That's something that we're going to continue to delve into. And I think in our next segment, we're going to talk a little bit more about that, because I'm intrigued by the whole idea of communication. That was my degree plan back then. So I try to improve that whenever I can. But we'll be right back with more talk with two very dynamic women friends.
Yes.
Why pay a monthly fee? Free checking at IBC.
Today, we're teaching the children to save.
IBC Bank teaches children to save. At IBC Bank, we believe financial education starts early. That's why we're bringing fun, interactive learning straight to the classroom. From hands-on workbooks to exciting prizes, our financial literacy sessions teach students how to make smart money moves they'll carry for life. Want your school to be part of the fun? Contact IBC Bank today and schedule your free financial literacy class.
KGNS aims to inspire, uplift, and unite our community while showcasing the incredible acts of heroism and leadership that happen right in our backyard. Show us your community spirit. Together, we can empower others and celebrate those who make our hometown a better place to live in. Join us every fourth Tuesday of the month to recognize the drive and commitment from citizens making a change. KGNS Honors, only on KGNS News.
Welcome back to Mind Your Business. Today we're very fortunate to have two very dynamic women and friends join us, Dalia Martinez and Sandra Alaniz. Thank you for being here with us today, and thank you for sharing your stories. I know our audience is going to find that very interesting. And by the way, I want to thank our audience for all of your comments. I really have appreciated everything I hear, good, bad, ugly. I like hearing it because it's important to get that information and go from good to great, right? That's what we do at IBC. And one of the things that we're finding most interesting is that you all love our guests because of the information they're bringing to you, which is what we're all about. This is why we're doing this show, is because we want to bring this information to improve what you're doing in your business. And if we're providing that information and that service, well, then we're doing our job in a good way. So thank you all for your comments. That's the whole idea of this, is doing more, because your prosperity is our priority. So with that said, welcome back. And I want to talk to you a little bit more about what is inspiring you to do more within your careers, because I know that you all are not just sitting at your office doing your job. You're trying to do so much more for the community. Sandra, you're doing a magnificent job as chairwoman. I see you everywhere, and like we were talking about earlier, I said I didn't do this much when I was chair. What's going on? But like you said, there's so many activities, so many things going on, and that's wonderful because you made that promise, and you're keeping to your promise about getting out there, getting people, exposing more businesses, helping the business world, and I think you're doing a great job there.
Thank you. And
now the other part too that's very important is that you're kind of collaborating to inspire women. I know you've already done stuff before. Dalia, can you tell us more about the Laredo Women's Forum and what you all were doing there with that group at one time?
Yeah, so we started that right before COVID, and unfortunately we shut it down, because of COVID. But for me, as a woman in a man's world for 40 some odd years, right? I've been very fortunate that I've had really great mentors in my life. Unfortunately, most of them have been men. Right, because I work with men, right? And I say unfortunately because women just bring a different perspective, I think, to the workforce, right? And so the whole idea about the Laredo Women's Forum was to bring women together to learn from each other, because at the end of the day, we're all facing the same problems. We're all trying to hire people, we're trying to mentor people, we're trying to train people, we're trying to grow our business, we're trying to make more money. I mean, we all dealing with insurance issues, whatever those issues are, they're all the same, right? So we felt that if we got a bunch of women together from the community, that we could share our stories, share our successes and our challenges, and each of us become better as a result of that, right? And so I'm very proud of Sandy for being the chairwoman of the chamber. We've been friends for, I don't know, we can't decide if it was 32 or 33 years. And I've seen her just blossom into a great community leader. And she's such a great role model. And so when she became the chairwoman of the chamber, I went to her and I said, I'd like to help you stand up the Laredo Women's Forum again, but through the Laredo Chamber of Commerce, so that we can put this out to the community and not just to a small group of women. And
with that said, I want to kind of talk a little bit more about mentoring. We're going to talk a little bit about what's coming up, what you all are planning, what's in the works, but more about mentoring, because I know both of you have that in mind, and I know you take men and women at the bank under your wings and help us all, and that means a lot. Some of us more than others, probably, because some of us want to learn more, and you can tell right away who wants to really vet themselves and get into it and commit them, and who doesn't. So, Sandra, in your case, I know we talked about people that told you, young girls who have said, I want to be chairwoman. And you said, okay.
That happened to me on Friday. It was so exciting.
Okay, go for it. What do you recommend to the young women right now that are starting their business, like the woman we were talking about, the young lady we were talking about? What do you tell them right now to start that path, to start that journey?
Well, we're always looking for someone that we can help, right? And like you said, men and women, but of course, because women are, I guess, like Dalia says, we're very unique in a sense that we don't have those mentors. So I tell them to come to me, just like Dalia and I, and I'll tell you a quick story. The conversation I had when I was looking for a mentor, I talked to my banker back then, and he said, you need to speak to Dalia Martinez. She's an up-and-coming banker. She's extremely intelligent. If you need someone, I had just graduated from college, running a business. I said, I need someone that I can talk to about these things. And so he said, call Dalia Martinez. I gave her a call. I asked her to lunch. She said yes.
I was like, what? Who are you?
And she's like, who are you, lady? And thankfully she said yes. And so it has provided me not only with, professional mentorship, but also, on a personal level, which is more important to us now, as friends. So I do tell them to seek that out. And what they're doing now, like on Friday at the Chamber, we had 2 grand openings. There were both women under 35 opening businesses.
Wow.
I know. I was so excited celebrating. So I tell them, get involved. I know it's hard. You're getting in your business, and that's what you're focused on, because I did it too. But you've got to put yourself out there and network. Yeah. If you want to find out what other people are thinking, what other people are doing, what path you need to take, you need to put yourself out there and network. And
with that said, I'm going back to my communication talk that I was mentioning earlier. I have someone in our an employee and staff member in marketing, and he was about to go join a board, and I said, okay. Well, you're not asking for my advice, but I'm going to give it to you. I said, you need to be prepared because you're young. And you're treated differently when you're young. You're treated as being, not as ready, not as seasoned, not as, I said, the respect is different. I said, you have to dress the part. You have to speak the part. I said, you have to, it's almost like a quick business etiquette course, because I wanted him to walk in with confidence and not be, because we know what happens at boards. We've all been on boards. When you're young, they take advantage of you. You're the cleanup committee. You're the you're the everything else but the high position. So we want to prepare you. What do you tell someone that's getting into boards and doing that? Because that's really the networking starts with those things. What do you tell them about that? That's interesting that you asked that. There's this one young woman on our board at the Chamber, and I'll say her name, Kayla Alvarado. She's amazing. Yeah. She is amazing. She's with the Killam Group. Yeah. And things happened, during our discussions, and I'll call her afterwards and I tell her, you know what, you really impressed me. You did this great. I was very impressed. Just to let them know what they're doing is right. And the bottom line, she's there. She showed up. She acts professional. So it doesn't matter how old she is. She's acting the part despite her age. Yeah. So that's what they need to do, is just show up. Yeah, you're right. You're right. And with that said, I know that overall we look at people and what they're doing in the workforce, and we check them out. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that as we move on to our next segment, because I want to discuss what you all think we should do as a city and as a community to help our young people, because I think that's going to be very important moving forward as we deal with all those issues that we have with our politics, I guess, you might say. But we'll be right back with more on business acumen and how women are involved.
Why pay a monthly fee? Free checking at IBC.
KGNS aims to inspire, uplift, and unite our community while showcasing the incredible acts of heroism and leadership that happen right in our backyard. Show us your community spirit. Together, we can empower others and celebrate those who make our hometown a better place to live in. Join us every 4th Tuesday of the month to recognize the drive and commitment from citizens making a change. KGNS Honors, only on KGNS News. Welcome back to Mind Your Business. This is Gabriel Castillo, and I'm really having a good time hosting today's show. We've got 2 people that are really lighting up things for the business world and for me too. Thank you all for being here. It's been fun, and we're going to continue this conversation because, first of all, I know you both very well. And of course, Sandra, I know you from way back, my 3 generations. Yeah. First marriage. Yeah. But the thing is that, I think we've all grown in different ways, and we still stay in certain ways, still immature, I guess, for certain things. But overall, I think we've learned. And you said something very interesting during our break. You said, Dalia, that yes, you mentored her, but then you added...
I added the fact that while it started off that way, and I definitely was her mentor and her coach, she was a little crazy back then. She's very down to earth now. But somewhere along the way, things shifted. You know, and when I started, you know, running into issues, I would go to her for coaching and for mentorship. And sometimes she wouldn't even give me advice. She would just tell me, well, you know how you are, or you know how you can be. And then that would get me to thinking like, yeah, she's trying to say it was my fault. I need to readjust my attitude or something, right? But I think that's really the beauty of a mentorship. It can turn into a real friendship, which we've had for 33 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's very special, you all.
It is.
That's amazing. And you know, Dalia, you said something else right now, and you've told me this before, and I think I heed what you say. You said, let me look at myself first. Tell me more about that process.
You know, I really, really do believe, and I teach this almost every day, and that is failure is an opportunity to learn. People look at failure as devastating. Oh, I made a mistake, I got in trouble, my boss got mad at me, and I just don't look at it that way. I look at it as an opportunity. Like I said, an opportunity to do better. I could have done something better myself. I could have communicated things better to someone else so that they could have done a better job, and I really do look at life that way. And I think it really comes from my upbringing. My father was the type of person who was never satisfied with anything that I did, which was the perfect beginning for my life in banking. And so I've never been afraid of failure. And as a result of that, I've just been a lifelong learner.
And I don't even think it's failure. It's opportunities to learn, like you said. I never look at anything as a failure. In fact, I see it's an advantage for me because now I can do a self-examination of what I need to do correctly so it doesn't happen again. So it's a choice, though, that you have to make that choice because some people don't want to see themselves in that light.
And we have a friend, you know, the saying that says, you know, your side, my side, the truth is in the middle. And we have a friend that says that she doesn't really think that's true. And maybe it isn't always true, but when someone is talking about a work situation and they're telling you that they feel that they don't like the way you said something or they don't like the way someone else said something to them or whatever, that is their truth. And so whether you intended to say something the way that it came out or that the way that they perceived it, you don't have control over that because that's the way that person received the information. So that's where you have to look at yourself and say, you know, it's not just about my personality, it's about the personalities of the people that I'm dealing with and how can I get the best out of them.
Right.
Oh, totally. And that requires thinking, that requires a process of really focusing and paying attention, something we always talk about,
Listening.
paying attention. Yes, that's true. And you know, with that said, I want to talk a little bit more about how we're moving forward and how you all are kind of the apostles that want to go out there and get other women involved and get other people involved in the development of our community. Tell us a little bit more about what you all are planning next in July.
You talk. This is
talk.
You talk.
You.
This is our relationship. We just did that on purpose.
Okay. Dalia, start with your end.
I want her to talk about it because really this is her passion project, and it's going to be, you know, powered through the chamber, of course, sponsored by the IBC. But this is her passion project, and I'm just there for the ride.
Okay. So I guess I'll explain it this way. So one of the questions that I always get asked is, what is the biggest sacrifice that I made from my career? And it's children. I never had children. And so that is a decision that I made early in my career because I saw that I was surrounded by men and I saw that when they had children, they got to leave, right? And I knew that I wasn't going to have that opportunity. So if I wanted to move up the chain, I had to make that sacrifice. I felt that I had to make that sacrifice. Maybe I didn't. My mother doesn't think I did need to make that, but I did, right? And so everything that I've learned, I want to do something with it. I want to tell women, especially women, look, there's not going to be a lot of people like you that are there, but that's okay because you're unique and you bring something important to the table, right? And so I feel like having this women's forum is a way for me to get that information out there for young women that are willing to learn, that may be afraid to ask or that don't have a mentor. And so our idea is to bring women together, bring local speakers that can talk about things that are important in their lives, whether it's health insurance or finances or how to start a business. What are all the legal requirements for starting a business? Or health, what do I need to do to stay healthy so I balance work with my home life and keep healthy, right? So we're going to have speakers to that. And then we're super, super excited to bring the president of Visa North America here to Laredo to come speak to us. She's a woman, and I met her through my work at IBC. She's inspiring. And, to think that somebody from IBC Laredo could have a relationship with the president of Visa says a lot about the power of women and the connections that we're capable of making.
And ironically, I was reading her bio, Kimberly Lawrence, and she has been with Visa for 30-some years,
Wow.
kind of
Yes.
Parallel with your life.
Yes.
So I'm sure you have discussed that.
We've talked about that and how she grew up within the company and how she was given this opportunity as a result of everything that she's done. And that's the same thing as me. I've grown up at IBC. I've been here 35 years, and I've had a lot of great opportunities.
I know. And so with that said, I wanted to also mention the fact that everyone should save the date for July 31st.
That's correct.
Right, when we're going to be hosting an event, and there's sponsorships available for this event because, of course, everything requires good planning and good food and everything else. So we want to make sure that our audience knows that they should put it in their calendar for July 31st at IBC Bank Annex Ballroom. And it's going to be an evening event where we're going to have a speaker. You're going to have an opportunity for networking, I imagine, right?
Yes.
It's going to be an opportunity for networking. And then from there, hopefully that develops for other opportunities for women, to meet other people and maybe more forums. I'm sure you're planning more things as you go along, right?
Well, my goal and my passion is very similar to Dalia's, but also one of the things I'm very passionate about is the brain drain in Laredo. How young women and young men think that they have to leave and not come back. Mm-hmm. And so that is my passion. And if we can touch some of these young people, even in high school or going to college, and let them know that there's so many opportunities in Laredo, and we're in the precipice of something huge. When I was growing up in Laredo, and we're about the same age, 40 years ago, I always like to say, McPherson didn't even exist. No. So can we imagine what it's going to be like in 40 more years?
God, yeah.
And we're going to need very smart people to lead the city, to lead the businesses. So we can touch one of those, and one of those young ladies, the future chamber chair, the future president of a bank, we don't know.
And I like what you all are doing because I know you're going to be inviting young people to participate in this as well, young women, right?
Yes.
I know that I interviewed two young ladies from J.W. Nixon High School's business school program. And they're both now going to college. One's going to, I think, the Red McComb School of Business.
Wow.
I know. And the other one's going to, I believe, SMU. They both got accepted to major college. But I was so proud to hear the story afterwards because I interviewed them. We were talking about the business school and what it offers. And, from that program, I had so many parents calling and says, oh, my God, I didn't know about that. Can I get more information on that because I want my child to go
And we
there.
invite these young men and women to move back to Laredo and to make a difference.
That's so good. So with that, I want to go ahead and thank you all again for being with us today. And we're looking forward to talking to you again soon because this is a continuing topic that's going to grow. And I think with all you're planting that seed, that's going to be very important to our women and to the community in general. Mm-hmm. But thank you for all that you do. And I appreciate you all being here today.
Thanks for having us on.
Thank you. And that's our segment for today with Mind Your Business, and we thank our guests for being here. Please continue to join us, spread the word, and tell everyone. Follow us on social media, follow us on the KGNS website and IBC's YouTube channel where you can find more information and find our shows. For now, I say goodbye and thank you.